So we just got home from London yesterday, and I wanted to give you some tips for traveling for London, things that maybe you wouldn't think about or didn't know about before traveling. Welcome to the Addams Family Travelers. Join us as we use our vacation days to travel around as much as we can and enjoy exploring the world. Make sure you join us on our adventures. One thing that I think was the biggest thing that kind of surprised me, obviously everyone knows they drive on the left side of the road in England. We weren't driving, so we really didn't worry about it. The thing is, when you're crossing streets, you need to look the opposite direction. Luckily, a lot of the streets will, on the bottom as you walk by, will say look left or look right, depending on which way you need to look. But that was something that I really didn't know and was kind of surprising. So definitely a tip when you're crossing the street. Another thing when walking around, especially London, where we were, is that I felt like the pedestrians really didn't have the right of way. Maybe they do, but the cars were not stopping for you. So you just really have to watch where you're going. And, if you're going to try to go by fast, they're going to hit you. So they will not stop for you, the bikes included. So definitely be careful crossing the street. Another tip I have, is regarding tipping. So the normal tipping rate over there is about 10 to 15%, but most of our checks, if you look on the bottom of your check, it'll include a service charge. That is the tip. They already include about like a 10% tip rate. Some restaurants did a little more, like 12%, but I think almost every restaurant we went to, it was included. So you really don't have to worry about tipping, but definitely look in the bottom of your receipt. You can leave more tip, but it's not really expected, just 10 to 15% over there. Another tip, number 4, is when you're running the escalators in London, there's a lot of escalators, especially when you go on the tube, and there are signs telling you to keep right in the escalator. Basically, keep right, because if people want to pass you on the escalator and like run up the steps, or down the steps, they go on the left. So basically you just want to stay to the right of the escalator above the tube. London, we found, was a lot of the stuff, it's a very huge spread out city. So like, for example, we went to Tottenham, which is still in London, but it took us over an hour to get there. So basically, sometimes you would think you take the tube, but I would calculate it on Google Maps. And if it was, I found a lot of the times, if it took about 30 minutes to walk there, it was going to take us just as long to go on the tube. When they call it the underground, I mean, they're not joking. It's not like, I know we've been to New York City and you go down like one big escalator or a flight of stairs and you're there. You have to go back down 2 or 3 huge flight of stairs. It takes a long time, and then you have to walk through the tunnels to get to your line. So I actually think it's better sometimes, and make sure you just compare your distances, but sometimes you're going to be walking, and you're going to be doing a lot of walking. We walked about the 4 days we were in London, we walked about 50 miles. So just prepare if you go to London to do a lot of walking. My next tip is, speaking of the tube, the payments were kind of out there. You can use your credit card, luckily, but you need a separate credit card for every person going through, because they don't charge you just like say you go to New York City or Philadelphia and you're using the subway, they charge you usually a flat fee per ride. But this is charging you depending on which stop you get off. So you each have to scan a different credit card and then scan it on the way out. So that was just something different that we weren't prepared for. So if you're going to be using the tube and using your credit card, make sure if you're with multiple people, that you each have your own credit card. And then we didn't have the kids with us, so I'm not sure. We were kind of wondering what they would do with kids. I'm not sure on those policies. That's something you may want to look up if you're taking kids to London. The next tip is, if you're going to London, make sure you book your attractions in advance. I know, especially the Harry Potter studio tour, we actually booked that before we booked our flights. We had to book that, it was 4 months in advance, and it was already selling out very quickly for the weekend we're going. So if that's something you want to do, make sure you do it way in advance. The other attractions too, depending, now we had the London pass. That's a pass that'll save you money on attractions. Now, I'm not sure if it was actually worth it for us because we planned on doing the hop on, hop off bus. We only got on it once. We ended up skipping the Shard, going up the Shard because we were just too tired and the walk was so far from where we were. So, that's something you can look into if you plan on going on enough attractions that are on that list. We got the 2-day pass. It was approximately $114 US dollars per person. So it's a lot of money. I'm not sure for us, we might have broke even. It included the Tower of London, Westminster Abbey, St. Paul's Cathedral, and the hop on, hop off bus. But unless you're using all that stuff, and doing multiple things on there, it may not be worth it. Another thing is to book reservations for dinner in advance, especially on the weekends. London's a very crowded city. We noticed the restaurants were crazy on Friday and Saturday. So definitely if you go into a pub, you could probably walk in. But if you're going somewhere a little nicer, definitely make sure you make a reservation. So that's just some tips for visiting London. I hope that helps if you're going there for your next trip.